Hey everybody, welcome back to the SilverSilk and More channel for another fabulous tutorial. My name is Nealay Patel. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm the owner, designer, and educator here at SilverSilk and More. My job is to bring you guys fun, inspiring tutorials, and hopefully I've been bringing it every time. Now, recently I went on a trip overseas to Spain, and I needed some R&R, of course. I didn't really participate much in the bead buying or anything like that. I really just wanted to zone out and enjoy the beach, enjoy the city. I went to three different ones. In fact, it was Madrid, Sitges, and Barcelona. And they were all so different and so fun. But you always bring something back. In my case, it was some new clothes, but also memories and inspiration. And I went to this really fun, it was very touristy, I would say, but it was still very different for what it was, right? We went into a little cave that had flamenco dancers and you had to get like tickets for it. And it was so fun. And it was heavy steeped in the culture and it was beautiful. So I kind of came back from my trip, sad to come back, but I still came back. And I was looking at some materials that I had on my table for my pop up shop and everything that's on silversilkonline.com, which if you wanted to shop, it's right up there. And as I started to like sort through seed beads and stuff, I was thinking, hmm, I wonder how I can add movement to this. And I had this vision, it struck me like lightning. I was like, okay, I want to create a bunch of little ruffles, and that is going to be my flamenco moment. And sure enough, the design came together. It was stunning. Let me show you guys what it is. This is the design I'm talking about. It is so brilliant, so colorful, very much flamenco. You've got the ruffles, you've got the fans. It's got great movement, and it really inspired me to do a video for it because I want to pass on this design and pattern to you guys. Which, speaking of, we do have a written pattern for it. In fact, you can find it in the description below. Or you can go to silversilkonline.com and check out the free pattern section. All you do is just sign up for a membership, and you will instantly be granted access to a library of patterns. With this, we're going to get started with our tutorial. I'm so excited to get this information to you guys about the materials and the process of how to make these gorgeous things. This is a little bit of seed bead weaving, but I promise it is nothing extravagant or difficult to pick up. Um, Before we get started, though, I want you guys to do a couple things for me. First is to follow my Instagram channel. And on there, I've got a bunch of different inspiration, some reels, just really like good silver silk cultural things, I think, that kind of pertain to my life and silver silk inspiration. And then the other thing I want you to do is to subscribe to the channel. Here over on YouTube, and to give this video a thumbs up. All those things are important for the visibility of the channel. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. We've got tools and materials, which I'm not going to cover the tools. I've actually got a full video on tools that you guys can watch, and that is also in the description below. But I do want to talk about the materials because this stuff is so unique and so cool. The first is water buffalo horn chain. This is 25 millimeters in diameter. It's very lightweight, and it is natural water buffalo horn that is from the Philippines. And it does have like kind of a textural material similar to acrylic, which it is definitely not acrylic. I, in fact, had a single link that I ended up breaking by accident, and then I saved it so I could show you guys the inside material. Whenever a buffalo horn is completely polished from front to back, it has this beautiful black gloss to it. Um, and you can get that horn texture to it. So I just thought this was really cool, and I'm kind of glad I saved it to show you guys so that you don't break yours open. I will say, though, you do have to cut through it in order to get the link separated, because it is pretty much made um, seamless all the way around. I will probably end up having this again replenished in the store at some point. I know that you can check out the pop-up shop for new things. which is a link over on the SilverSilk online website. And you'll always find brand new fun materials to work with, including, and not singled out, of course, is the SilverSilk Capture Chain. This one's in silver, and it is a silver ball chain core that is about 2.5 millimeters that has a stitching wire around it, a stitched wire around it, which makes it this beautiful cable chain. The machine that I have creates this gorgeous knit. It draws it over the ball chain, making the chain very soft, supple, and fun to work with. You can cut it without it fraying, which is, I think, one of the most brilliant things about it. And we do have special findings for it if you are wanting to finish out your design using the chain, which I'll actually cover toward the end of my materials. So I'll set this aside and then we can keep continuing, which we are talking about some Delicas. These are size 10 Delicas, and I have them in 4 different colors to work with, because more color is more color, right? And so you'll need 4 grams total, but really what that equates to is 1 gram each. This is not the measurement of 1 gram. I've got most of it invested in my project, but I did want to show you each of the colors. So this one is color A, which is turquoise. Beautiful light blue. Reminds me of Sleeping Beauty turquoise. We have got sparkling green, which looks more like teal to me. It's got a nice luster to it and all these different other colors. So it's not solid green. It is indeed sparkling green. Kind of reminds me of a beautiful nail polish almost. All right, we have got that bright pop of color that we all need, which is that bright, bright orange. So cool, so fun. I tend to use this in small doses. Not to say that you couldn't create the same design using a completely different palette, but with my brighter control colors, I like to kind of control them just a little bit. Okay, we have got our darker, rich Picasso garnet, which is sort of a dark, dark red color, but has that travertine finish to it, or in this case, Picasso, which just adds a nice antique finish to the bead, and it's so pretty. Size 10 Delicas seem to be easy enough for me to see, which you guys get it. Like the smaller the bead gets, that hole within the bead just disappears, right? But these have a larger hole because they are cylinder Delicas and are easier to stitch with. And so this was the perfect project, especially because I'm stacking Picot beads, stitching together, which of course I'll get into a little bit later. All right, we have got our Fireline or Wildfire. Um, Either or works. I will also say that with Wildfire, you get a different palette of colors than you do the Fireline. And so I was looking for something that will add to my stitch work within my fans, almost like a fifth color. And so the beading string, the thread, was that extra addition that really made this project come together. So I encourage you guys to use a different color thread. And in this case, it's a bright red, which looks orange on camera, but it's really bright red. And in fact, I've got the physical sample that I'll show you guys in a minute of what I'm talking about. But you'll also need some size 12 needles, which the hole is just big enough for that thread to fit in pretty easily. And it is one of those threads that's wiry, and so you want to flatten the end of it before passing it through the needle to make it a lot easier to string through. And you can do that just by pressing it with your thumb and index finger and get that nice and flat. Do you guys see that? And then all you do is just loop it through the hole of the needle. And with the tulip needles, which is what I'm using, it's got that gold tip, so it's easy to see the hole through it. And I have that pre-strung already. And then I've got my silver silk findings that I was talking about with you guys a little bit earlier. These are custom fit for the silver silk chain. So these are the single strand end caps in the 6-layer plating of gold. I'm sorry, of silver. I use gold so much that I forget I have other colors. These have little notches on the inside that grasp onto the ball chain. So essentially, you don't need any adhesives or anything extra, just other than chain nose pliers to crimp it over the ball chain. And then with that, you'll also need a clasp and a couple jump rings. And then you'll need some larger jump rings. These are 6 millimeter and these are 9 millimeter. This is going to be just big enough to fit onto my finished piece to connect the water buffalo horn to my findings. And so both of these sizes I carry over on the SilverSilk online website within the findings section. So you'll want to look out for those. And they all have the same plating technology, those multi layers of plating that ensure non tarnish and non degradation over time. Okay. So that kind of covers the materials. And I want to show you guys the finished piece real quick. So now you can see why I used that red thread to get that stitching to really pop. If I just used a black or white, or even that clear that is within the Fireline house of colors, I think it just wouldn't have the same effect. I don't think. And so I say color, color, color for this one. Alrighty, let's get started. I'm going to grab my silver lined, um, I'm sorry, my sparkling green Delica beads, and I'm going to grab my water buffalo horn. You'll want to check out first the layout of your design and see how big you want your centerpiece to be. So in this case, I think I used about 9 links and then just cut the rest off for my design. You could even use less than that, but the idea is to use an odd number so that you get a center link first. So go ahead and chop that off first. I'm not going to chop off my full length because I actually sold this to a customer already. So I got to repurpose it. But I did want to put that out there that you'll want to start with a focal piece that is the perfect length for you. And you can make this as long or as short as you want. The ones that I had in the store were 1 foot lengths. And so you can get a pretty good amount of flamenco fans or ruffles as you wish. But in my case, I just chose to do a shorter, smaller focal piece. Alrighty. I am going to grab a Delica and we can go ahead and move past our materials layout there and move into step one, which is anchoring our first bead using color B, or in this case, the sparkling green. And we're going to loop it through the buffalo horn. So what that means is I'm going to take my needle, I've strung on my Delica bead, and I want to leave myself a good tail of about 4 to 6 inches. So we'll say about that much. And the reason is that we'll want to tie our end threads together at the end of the stitch. And I'm going to bring it up through the same Delica that I just strung on. Okay. So I will also now tuck my tail thread under my index finger and over my middle finger so that I've got it now nice and anchored. And I'm working with a shorter piece of thread, but ideally you'll want to cut at least 18 inches per fan. Okay, let's move on to step two. Step two is basically the same. We're just going to pick up another sparkling green bead. We're going to go down into our link. Okay, and I'm just going to pull it. And I believe step three is to just go up through our Delica again. This is starting to create the base, as you can see. And I did that off camera, so I apologize. But you can see that I have started stitching my base. So let's do this a couple more times. And I'll try and do it on camera. All right, so I've strung a bead. I'm going to go ahead and just slide that right down. I'm going to go through the link, pull it, and then I'm going to go through the Delica. Just like that, and pull so that you get that tension. Let's do one more together before we move on. Pretty easy, right? I've already stitched 4 and you need a total of 12. So you just keep going until you have 12. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, here I've got 12 already stitched on. We were moving from the right side to the left side, so I'm just going to position my beadwork that way. So let me see how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I do have 10. Okay, so let's stitch a couple more. Sorry. I'd forgotten how many I had prepared for this. So we're going to stitch two more, and then we're going to actually start our picot. So I believe we'll do one more after this, and then we'll be ready to swap our graphics. Okay. There we go. All right, now I've got all 12 stitched on there. Doesn't that look gorgeous already? All right, we're ready to create our first picot. So you're going to string your turquoise, your garnet bead, and then your bright orange. So let me bring those out. I'm going to grab my turquoise, and then I'm going to grab my Picasso garnet, and then I'm going to grab my orange. So it's good to have this in order so that you can follow the pattern in a very meditative standpoint and not have to worry about messing up. And you can always switch up the pattern too if you wanted. This pattern that I created is solely just, a guideline for you guys to follow, but feel free to change it up. All right, so the next step is to actually skip the orange. I'm going to try and slide that up. There we go. And I'm going to go down with my needle through the Picasso garnet, the turquoise, as well as that green, sparkling green bead from the base. It's very important that you do that. And I'm going to pull. And you see that last Delica just locks everything in place. And I've created my first picot. So the idea here is to kind of continue with the same stitch, except in the first step, you're going to go up through that next base sparkling green bead. And you just go all the way up. Okay. And you'll want to just start over with your picot. So one turquoise, one Picasso garnet, and one bright orange. Go ahead and string that all the way down. Okay, watch carefully. I'm going to skip that orange, go down through those three beads, the garnet, the turquoise, and the sparkling green, and then pull your needle. All right. And you'll basically keep going. We'll do a couple more together. Okay, pick up the three again. I'm just curious to know, what if we did it all in orange? Like, how bright and colorful would that be? Or if you did them in the different links in different colors instead of mixing them up so that one of them is purely turquoise, one is purely orange, one is purely sparkling green, and one's completely dark red. It's just so many possibilities, Especially the more colors you have to work with, the more planning you probably might have to do to get that perfect design for you. I quite like the mixed colors though. Okay, you can see how fast this is stitching up. I mean, I would have this done in no time. This is definitely one of those designs you can get done in a few hours, depending on how many links you want to stitch. So there we go. What I'll do is I'll just keep going to the very end, but I've already prepared it ahead of time. So we're going to do a couple stitches together, and I'm going to show you guys how to tie it off. Okay, you can see that I've made it all the way down. I need to do a couple more stitches, and I've got my tail thread there to the side. Again, tuck this under your index finger and over your middle finger to anchor it. And let's continue the pattern a couple more times here. So go up through that. I'm going to pick up our 3 beads. Okay, you'll go down through the sparkling green, and I've got one more to do, which is where my tail thread is. So go up through that. Okay. And for reference, we're going to just go ahead and go to that slide, which is slide 6. And we'll pick up a set of beads again. Same thing here. Don't do anything different. Where's my orange bead? There we go. Okay, let me re-anchor this real quickly. And I'm going to skip that orange bead and go through the 3 beads per usual. Okay, this time I'm going to go up through the bead right next to it that's on the base. So the next sparkling green right next to it. And this is where my thread is exiting. And this is my tail thread. So that way, whenever I turn this around, you can see that my tail thread and my working thread are really just nicely side by side together. And that's where I'm going to create my square knot. Okay, so let me get that out of the way, and I'm going to set it down here. And I'm just going to tie a square knot. 1. And if you wanted to really amp this up, you can go through the loop once, or you can go twice to create that nice little surgeon's knot, which is extra secure. And let me do a close-up hold of this for you guys. Okay, it looks like a little fat knot, but the thing is, we're going to stitch this through our beadwork, and so it's just going to disappear essentially. So what I'll do is I'll grab one thread at a time, and I'll just go up through my base here. And I'll just stitch it a little bit into my work. Sometimes I'll just trim it right at the ends once I've come out of a picot. But since I've knotted it, you don't need to get too crazy. Okay, so I'm going to end that one there, and I'm just going to grab my cutters or scissors. If you've got thread scissors, that's always a good thing to have around, and you can just trim that right off. And then you'll want to thread your other tail thread there. Another tip that you can do is if you've got too short of a tail thread, you can always pre-needle your beads and then go back, and just before passing your needle through, you can take that shorter piece of thread, thread it onto your needle, and it doesn't have to be in all the way. And you could just pull that right through and, lock that knot right into that bead. And you've got one tightly secured design fan that you can now continue that stitching. Isn't that fabulous? It's so easy. And this doesn't move or shift in place either. The fun really comes when you have multiple fans created. So you get that wonderful layered effect that this one does. Now, the last step is you'll want to go ahead and attach your findings, which is what I did. I connected my 9mm jump ring to a 6mm jump ring, and then to that, my single strand end caps. And I believe I might have gotten the count of the single strand end caps wrong because I mentioned maybe 2, but you actually need 4 because you have 2 different ends of the capture chain. So what you'll need to do is grab an end cap, and I'm going to show you guys how to crimp this, in fact. If you've never used a single strand end caps before, you are in for a very wonderful treat. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers and get this ready for you guys. A couple tips that I can give to you is that whenever you've crimped one side, just double check and lay the chain on your work surface and make sure that the stamp side is face up on both ends. And so when you insert this, you just simply push it through. Make sure that um, crimp end is nice and wide as well. If it's not wide, you can take your chain nose pliers and open it up a little bit. But I just go in with my wide nose pliers or chain nose pliers. In this case, I've got a protective coating on it that I used a product called Tool Magic. But then you just squeeze it, and that's it. The inner teeth lock onto the ball chain, and you've got one strong, secure hold. Okay, same thing for this other side. I'm just gonna lay it down, make sure that my chain isn't twisting or turning, and I'm gonna grab my other end cap. As I mentioned, this one is very closed, and so you can grab a pair of tapered chain nose pliers, insert it in, and just open up that end cap a little bit. It's got a brass core, so it does take a little bit of muscle to open it up, but it is insanely secure. And because of that brass core, it is hypoallergenic, and so you're also getting a finding that is going to be sustainable with wear over time. Okay, there we are. Make sure that seam is nice and closed. And then all you do is just attach your gorgeous findings with your chain nose pliers. It might be a lobster claw clasp, it might be a toggle clasp. Really, that is your decision and whatever aesthetic you want to use or whatever your security preference is for a clasp. But yeah, I just open up the jump ring. Okay, insert your end pieces in and then close it back up, and you have got a fabulous necklace that is full of motion, full of fun, full of joy. Everything that I experienced in Spain, really. Isn't that just dynamite, you guys? I think it is absolutely gorgeous and stunning. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera back around so that you guys can see me. But I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did showing you guys how to do it. It's just super fun and easy, and I think that's what jewelry making should be, right? With a little bit of pushing because, seed bead weaving is an art of its own, but it's got a time and place, and this was the time and this was the place to do it. So I hope you guys give it a try. Let me know in the Silver Silk Silkies Facebook group how you got on with this project, if you reinterpreted it and did some a different colorway perhaps, or a different layout or a different theme. I'm always curious and excited to see what you guys are making. Don't forget to follow my Instagram and definitely subscribe to the channel as well here over on YouTube. Give this video a thumbs up. And lastly, you can go ahead and sign up for our text message notifications. If you've got questions, if you want to be in tune for any notifications on coupons or tutorials, this is the place to do it. So with that, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys at the next tutorial. Bye.